Welcome back, everyone. I'm Billy Liucci.
And I'm Amanda Atwell.
And we are
moving goalposts. I've actually got a couple goalpost movers this week, so that'll be fun to get into.
I love it. We've been moving them all over the place all year, and this is the last game that either one of our teams will be playing in I guess technically y'all do squeeze right under 2025, so this is the last game of a pretty eventful, really fun 2025. Both teams, various reasons. You had your highs and lows. We followed it every step of the way, Amanda, with the help of
last show of the year. It's crazy.
With the help of our good friends from
at La Casa, supporting in the highs and the lows, the good times and the bad. The tequila is always there for you. La Casa will always be there.
La Casa will make you feel, it'll make you enjoy the victories, and it'll take a little bit of the sting off the L's. So remind me not to walk out of here without your La Casa tonight.
Yeah, I need to restock.
It's on you.
Before the holiday, I need to restock. I made some pomegranate margaritas. I don't know if I mentioned this on our last show. I made some pomegranate
but they looked
margaritas.
Really good.
They were so good. We do like Christmas cocktails. Like me and my boyfriend will each make a Christmas cocktail and have like a little competition. I cleared this year easily these pomegranate margaritas. They came out so good. I've never used egg white in a cocktail before. It kind of scared me, but it makes it like really frothy. Like a lot of really fancy bartenders will use it.
I've seen that at like the Bowen House. I think I had one there one time.
But it was so good. So I'll have to make more of those, and I'll post a recipe and share it. But it came out really, really good. Maybe I'll do a little video of that for New Year's.
I will say I'm always Team Grant in these situations, but I saw the cocktails, and I definitely thought like that.
He didn't even shake his.
The pomegranate one, I was like, that looks really good. So
you can. Grant doesn't win the cooking or cocktail making awards in this house, and he will easily admit that as well. There's a reason that I am the one that makes all the espresso martinis, the margaritas, everything.
You're a good bartender.
I am the reason we actually have 2 bar carts in our house. It's very necessary.
We've established that. Yeah, I know your background. Your on Texas people always keep track of the stash back there.
Yeah, which the stash has dwindled since the start of the year, but a lot of it's down low that you can't see.
We need to restock with La Casa, and we will this week, and it'll be perfect. It's perfect for not just your team's game, but bowl season in general and the NFL playoffs. It's the time of year to sit at home and stay warm and enjoy a little beverages courtesy of La Casa.
I was in Minneapolis this last weekend, and I almost kind of wish I was still in Minneapolis because you just have an excuse to not go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because the day I was leaving, it snowed. Like we left in the middle of a blizzard, which I'm from Texas. I didn't even know you could do that, but apparently Minneapolis airport got it pat down. That airport shuts down less than DFW, so make that make sense.
Yeah,
it's funny. Deal with so much weather.
Last year, I left Detroit, or 2 years ago. I got stuck in Detroit for 2 days. It was snowing. It was 0 degrees in Detroit. 0, like no number. And we were stuck in Detroit. But you know why we were stuck in Detroit? Because Houston was at what's it called? Not a full stop.
Ground stop.
Ground stop for like 2 days because they had weather, like ice, and it wasn't even...
Yeah, a thunderstorm, DFW shutting down. I mean, there was a ground stop earlier this year, the day I left for France. We were one of the last 5 planes off the runway before they went into a ground stop. We nearly missed our flight to Nice, and I would have been very angry at American Airlines if that happened.
You know what you would have done? You would have tweeted about it, Karen.
I would have
Karen Atwell would have come out.
I mean, honestly, I am supportive of any Karens towards airlines in this country.
I agree.
After my experience with Air France in France and the fact that I got 200 euros just to use at the airport when they canceled our flight. And then they didn't just refund our tickets because our tickets were, I think they were like $100 each because we were just flying from Marseille to Paris. They gave us $250 or 250 euros back just for canceling our flight. So we made money on our flight. And I don't think you'll catch any airlines in America doing that. So yeah, I am full support of anybody who wants to be a Karen to airlines in this country. They deserve it. Especially with how expensive it's gotten. Anyways, sorry for my tangent.
I know, the expensive, because I'm going to Chicago this weekend and have not booked it yet, so I will fall victim to the high prices. All right, well, there's one game this week. We'll start with it. We did last week was almost exclusive A&M, it felt like, in the wake of the playoff loss, and now we've got your Longhorns. They've got one more game, and I'll just start off, Amanda, saying it reminds me a lot. So I'm not going to change it up. I'm going to say the same thing I said last year, and I had a lot of Longhorns kind of make light of it, and I believed it then, and I believe it now. It is a fun opportunity if you're going to play in a bowl game, and you're a school, whether it's Texas, A&M, one of these programs that genuinely just your fans just really care and get excited. If you're going to play in a bowl game, put in front of me a team with rich history. Put a blue blood in front of me. The same thing I said last week. I'd rather have played Miami than Tulane. It was fun. It was, if you're good enough to win the national title.
Was that game really
Miami.
All that fun for you? I don't know. Maybe the concept of the game is fun, but the actual game was not that fun.
I was not having fun.
I would not have had fun if that was my team. I would have just been very frustrated that entire game.
I was. That game felt like doing one of these shows with you after that game, after the Texas game. It was pain. Yeah. And but I would rather that. So if I'm going to play a bowl, so last year A&M played USC, nobody in the history of football is going to care who won that Las Vegas Bowl. But had it not been USC, I don't think I'm going halfway across the country to watch it. So Texas, if you're going to go play – we make fun of the Cheez-It Bowl. The Citrus Bowl is a good bowl. If you're going to go play in the Citrus Bowl, the Cheez-It Bowl, then I want that Wolverine on the helmet. I want Ohio State.
I do also like that Citrus Bowl is also one that's kind of committing to the bit as far as the sponsor goes. Yeah. They don't go as out of the box as the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is just elite marketing. I worked in sponsorship marketing for Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and so I did those types of on-field activations. There is nothing like the
it's awesome.
Elite marketing. And I mean, if you don't like college football, if you don't like a bowl game like that, and just the sprinkles in the end zone to the helmet ads, it's just so much fun.
My favorite was the sprinkles in the end zone. That was awesome. Yeah. But you're right. And they have Sports Center talking about it, what they send to the media people that tweet and, in social media about it. It's great. And I like the Cheez-It Bowl from the standpoint of I woke up feeling the cheesies, yada, yada.
Yeah, and the stuff they're doing before the game too, they were out at a one of the amusement parks today with the Boys and Girls Club, and it was the Texas players and the Michigan players together, out at the theme park with these kids and just doing a bunch of really cool stuff within the community. So I've enjoyed watching it, and it seems like they're in good spirits going into this game.
Bowls are still cool. Bowls are still fun for the athletes involved.
If you had to pick a bowl game, though, what would it be? If you had to pick a sponsor of a bowl game, what would the name be?
Oh, I thought you meant because I was going to say that going to the Las Vegas for a bowl was pretty fun.
No,
You're talking
make
about
up your hypothetical bowl game. What would it be? I have mine. It would be the Chipotle Bowl. I feel like that's just, open opportunity for sponsor spinoff marketing opportunities.
Yours is going to be better than mine because you already thought of it. Mine would have something to do with some kind of pizza. It would be some kind of pizza. I don't know, the Domino's Bowl. The little.
You're so creative, Billy.
We did a Chipotle Bowl. I mean.
Yeah, you get a bowl at Chipotle.
Fine. I'm going to do the Ramen Bowl. The Ramen Bowl. There you go. Everybody gets
There's not a company called, I guess ramen.
Yeah, whatever the main brand, Instant Ramen Bowl. Yeah.
I don't think Instant Ramen is making enough of their, 99-cent instant ramen noodles to sponsor a bowl game, but
we'll do the Texags
$13 Chipotle Bowl these days. They probably can afford to sponsor a bowl game.
We'll do the Texags Bowl and see, Texas Longhorns have landed in the Texags Bowl. That would not.
And they will be opting out.
They've opted out, yeah. But Michigan's not opting out, despite losing, with all the stuff with Sharon Moore. They're in. I give them credit for staying in it. When that happened, I thought damn, Texas is literally going to have like a replacement bowl team. But I give Michigan credit.
I feel like there's too many contracts in place at that point. Like they've already agreed to it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's kind of like if a coach left, right? Like if he took another job. So how excited are you then? I personally, that is one I will tune in to watch. I'm going to Miami, Ohio State, so I'm going to tune in and watch a good portion of that before I head over to Jerry World. Forget about this show, forget about the rivalry. If it was Miami and Michigan, that's one of the few bowl games I'm going to kind of make it a point to watch. So Texas and Michigan, I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say excited isn't the right word. I am intrigued to see. I'm looking forward to the bowl game for reasons that aren't that Texas is playing in the Cheez-It Bowl, because I think that's disingenuous to say any Texas fan is pumped to watch their team play in the Cheez-It Bowl. You want to watch them in the playoffs. I think I'm looking at this from more of an opportunistic standpoint because of just the breakdown of how many Texas players are opting out of this bowl, how many early portal entries you have. I mean, I feel like Texas is a little bit of a step ahead in all the players that have made those decisions because they've had time to have those conversations. And a lot of this Texas team will look pretty significantly different in this bowl game, which can concern you, but it can also make you optimistic of, we actually get to see some of these redshirted players that have been sitting in the wings all season that a lot of people were wondering at the beginning of the season, why is James Simon not getting snaps at running back? Our running back room sucks. Why are all these other players sitting when we're struggling in this certain place? So you kind of get to see these young guys that were highly anticipated recruits that were sitting out because they were holding on to a red shirt. So you get to see them compete in this game. So it's a good opportunity to see exactly how well the youth on this team can compete. Obviously, Texas is going to want to fill a lot of holes in the transfer portal. There's going to be a lot more attrition for Texas this year than there was last year. Texas only had 9 portal entries last year, I'm pretty sure, which was one of the lowest in the SEC. But this year, I think so far there are 13 portal transfer entries and then 6 players declaring for the draft. But honestly, the biggest newsworthy entries and movements you've seen have been in the running back room, Wisner and CJ Baxter. But I don't think that's where you're going to see the biggest difference in this Texas team because, I mean, look at the running production outside of the A&M game and the OU game where Trey Wisner decided to pop out. He's a rival killer,
rivalry
unfortunately. Guy, the running back room was pretty much non-existent this year. Otherwise, your next best runner was Arch Manning. So it's really like, I mean, the running back room will look different because you'll see those younger guys getting those snaps, but that wasn't a strong suit for Texas as it was. And the only other offensive player that I think will make a major impact being out would be DeAndre Moore. But you have other good receivers that you can look to in those situations. He wasn't the number one receiver. The defense is what's going to look a lot different. I think there's going to be 7 starters that are opting out or transferring.
Okay.
So you have Taff is the only one that traveled with the team. He's with the team supporting them, but he's not going to play.
Yeah.
You have Anthony Hill declared for the draft, Trey Moore, Malik Muhammad, Jalen Gilbo, Ethan Burke, and LaFau. So most of those going to the draft. The only one surprise transfer in that group that was a major surprise was LaFau.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to look a lot different. You're going to see a lot of young players that you're probably not used to seeing. But, I mean, defense has been what Texas has hung their hat on the last few years. So this will maybe tell you if you have a situation like last year where the young offensive line wasn't quite up to the task.
Yeah.
So you see this young defense and a lot of linebackers that haven't really been tested at this level quite yet. So I think you can use this as an opportunity to see what this team is without a bunch of these players, which isn't really a thing you got last year. You didn't get to see what Texas looked like without those 4 starters on the offensive line last year.
Yeah, the playoffs, there's very little negative to going there, but it does, you don't get that opportunity to really see and test out some of your youth. You know, like I think of that A&M game last year, and you go, well, it was meaningless. It was Well, E.J. Smith flashed in that bowl game. He helped A&M win some games this year in the SEC as a backup running back. Cassius Howell would have been the MVP of the game had A&M won, and you saw how he carried that over into this season. And then, you know, I thought in that game you saw Marcel Reed make a lot of strides, some significant strides throwing the football. And I know how this season ended, but throughout most of the season you saw an improved passer in Marcel Reed. That's not to say he doesn't still need to make significant strides prior to next year, but you can see some things with some of these younger players in these games that can get you. They can get you pretty excited looking ahead. And in the case of Will Muschamp, I think he's going to be watching really closely, not necessarily to maybe the defensive output in terms of points and yards, but just individually. And you mentioned a lot of names, Muhammad and Taff in the secondary. I think if there's a position group that he might be most excited about coming over and taking that defense, it's the talent that the Longhorns have on the back end in terms of young, talented defensive back. So Muschamp will probably be licking his chops watching some of those guys Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, and I mean, it's an opportunity. At the end of the day, it's an opportunity to get another 10-win season, which is something that was very scarce for Texas for many years. Texas fans have gotten more used to it the last couple of years, but you don't want to forget those dark times of that being a far-off thought of getting a 10-win season. So, yeah, I think you just have to look at it with a certain mindset going into these games because, I mean, yeah, it's disappointing that you lost a chance to go to the college football playoff this year.
Yeah.
But you can either use this as a stepping stone and grow from it, or you can decide you don't care about bowl season and the Cheez-It Bowl or whatever. So I think it's beneficial. It's like a early spring game, but against an opponent that's not yourself.
True.
Which
an opponent with a really cool band too.
But they've maintained most of their team. Like they haven't had a bunch of opt-outs, a bunch of transfer portal entries. They've pretty much maintained their core program.
Hang on. What? That's okay. Thank you. Okay, we had breaking basketball news. We have someone covering it.
Okay. I think Michigan only has 5 players that are opting out. I'm not sure, but it's a much lower number.
Yeah.
So they'll pretty much look like Michigan looks. And the matchup itself is pretty interesting. I was looking at some of the numbers. Michigan's more heavy on the run game, which Texas kind of hung their hat on run defense this year. Pretty inconsistent passing game, which kind of bodes well with Texas's secondary issues that they had on and off throughout the season.
Yeah.
Very solid defensively, but nothing the Texas offense hasn't dealt with thus far this season. A&M had a very good defense. There was a couple other good defenses. Oklahoma, Texas has played some pretty solid defenses. Yep. So it should be an interesting game.
I love the quarterback matchup. I mean,
yeah.
Those are two of the more talked about. I know Arch isn't young anymore, but two of the more talked about QBs in college football this year. I mean, Underwood was, like the whole thing with his recruitment and the late flip from LSU and all the money in the NIL. And then he's kind of a hot topic again with Lane Kiffin moving on to Baton Rouge. And then you have Arch with the way he finished the season. So I think it's an exciting QB matchup. It's more than you're going to get in most of these bowl games. B, I just don't think the teams really in these games have a lot to lose. USC used that game against A&M. A couple of those players starred that ended up being like two of their best players this year, like superstar players, first, second team, all Big Ten, so you can really momentum springboard in terms of just kind of your fan excitement, your program momentum. Like you said, get to that 10th win. And if you can end a season, and I said this last year, and people, if you can end a season and say, well, we beat OU, A&M, and then you add Michigan to that list. And I know they beat.
You love talking about your blue bloods that you played and beat throughout the season.
You blue bloods and rivals, right? Like those are it matters, like it does, and that's why I thought for A&M they missed an opportunity there. Even if you lose to Ohio State, to go and say, hey, we beat Miami, LSU, Notre Dame. Those are 3 of your top 10 kind of programs in college football.
Beat Miami?
Yes, Amanda. I said that was the opportunity that I felt like.
Okay.
You know,
I thought you were saying I misheard that.
Yeah, I blocked it out. I'm chalking that up as a win. A week later, we've changed our tune. We didn't lose. We just ran out of time.
You know, you are undefeated in hypothetical victories. I will give you that much.
You always say that about me, and I have lost some hypotheticals too. Don't you dare get it twisted. Let's go. What else here about this game? Any other thoughts? You've got notes.
I don't know if we've chatted since the Wisner situation.
Let's talk about the opt-outs and portal for you guys for a minute.
Yeah, so what were the biggest surprises for you? As I think your biggest surprises were probably similar to Texas fans' biggest surprises as far as these players entering the transfer portal.
Well, on the A&M side, I don't think we've seen any. We've seen some mild surprises.
Oh, I'm talking about Texas because I don't think
surprise for
A&M's,
me.
Yeah,
because A&M
from the outside looking in.
Yeah, because A&M's not as far down the road as
I was about to say A&M hasn't really that much.
For me, just kind of following what I know without pushing to try to find out, and then reading what like y'all's side puts out because you are a rival, and I think all these things matter, and you want to be up to speed. Just like I'm the same way with LSU and OU, but Texas, it felt like there was a period there where people thought Wisner would come back, but it wasn't for sure. I think the credible people never said for sure, but it certainly felt like momentum was trending that way. I never expected Manny Muhammad to come back.
No.
Baxter, I kind of just barely raised an eyebrow with the injury history. So to me, it was Wisner would and LaFau were the two that when it happened, I went, oh. Now, being honest, I think LaFau played a great game against A&M. I don't think he's in any world irreplaceable. And in the case of Trey Wisner, I think you tweeted this, that he's had some great career moments at Texas.
He's a rival killer, but outside of that, he had a fantastic season last year.
Yeah,
and you have to thank him for just stepping up last season when he was RB3 going into last year, and he had a 1,000-yard rushing season.
I think he's pretty good, but I think
that's pretty incredible. This year he struggled a bit more, and I do think that some of it had to do with the offensive line in the beginning.
Yeah.
But he did have this offense was just not built around a run game. Sark wasn't calling those plays. He wasn't breaking out for those runs outside of the couple really good games he had.
Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise for most people was that they expected his decision to be between staying and going to the draft.
True.
The same decision with DeAndre Moore. I think people expected either he was going to stay or go to the draft.
Yeah.
So I do think there is a little I don't know, kind of hurts that you're going to have to see him in a different uniform next year because you really like those players. DeAndre Moore, great guy, leader of the locker room. Same thing with Wisner, just he's a Longhorn you love. You love having him as a part of the program. So it does hurt a little bit to see them go play somewhere else, but you wish them the most success because those are players that I think you can be pretty positive that they had a positive experience here. They're just looking to do what's best for their personal future. Yeah. I think with LaFau, he's a good player. He didn't have he was an elite player this year. I think they're looking for the elite level of player.
And I think when you're guys like Trey and DeAndre, and you've got one more crack at kind of entering this fantasy land, which is called the portal, where it's literally monopoly money these days with these programs. You go in and you ask Texas, your camp, whether it's your agent, the player, or the family, or all of the above, you go in with an ask, and this happens at A&M, and it's going to happen with some Aggies, and I've got a word of caution for Aggie fans here in a minute. But when you walk in there, and these players who, let's be honest, he was a first-team All-SEC back a year ago. In his mind, he is still a first-team All-SEC back, and you go in there expecting to be paid as such. A lot of times, whether it's Sark, Elko, DeBoer, Kiffin, whoever, you got to look a kid straight in the face and say, hey, we think you're worth this much. Well, coach, I want this much. We think that's too high a price. Here's what we're offering you. We'd love to have you stay. Otherwise, let's shake hands and best of luck to you. And I think in a couple of those instances, because if you're Steve Sarkisian, you are looking at your running game, and you are looking around the SEC and college football at what could be out there, and you are looking at what's on your roster in terms of younger receivers. And if that number gets too high, then as a coaching staff, you sit down, you have a little meeting, and you say, got a little too rich for our blood. We'd be better off using that money, like, say, to replace Moore as an edge rusher, or to replace, whatever position of need you've got, to say, hey, we can do running back and kick a little more towards this position rather than sign Trey to this much money. So they're tough decisions. And like you said, you can still root for these players. A lot of these kids have no ill will towards the teams they're leaving. They're looking out for number one in terms of, some of them have one last chance to get a real payday. And then some of them say, hey, I'm never going to get to the NFL unless I can go. We had a tight end leave, Theo Melanorstrom. He's been a very solid player for A&M, and his best year was probably going to be next year at tight end. But per everything I've heard, he wanted more targets in the offense than he thought he would get at A&M. And it's like, hey, man, we lose all these tight ends. A lot of it's going to go to you. No, he wanted to go to an offense, I think, that he could just say, hey, the tight ends caught this many passes here last year. I can replace that guy and catch that many. Okay. Well, I mean, if that's what you're going to do, good luck to you. And that's the case. And A&M lost a guy similar to LaFau, I feel like, in Rylan Kennedy, who wasn't a starter, but he could have very well been a starting DN this year. That was the most surprising one to me. And they'll probably still be fighting to keep him because, frankly, man, A&M lost a lot of depth at defensive end this year, and there's not a lot proven coming back. And he was one of, like, the three guys that had some experience there. So that one's a bit of a surprise. If you're following A&M closely, those were really, to me, the only two that so far that jump out. But just to finish my thought and save us on the back end here of what we're going to do, to Aggie fans, and Texas fans, y'all have already gone through it, understand that I think both these schools are committing to go after the Jaden Baws, the Cam Colemans, some of the biggest names in quote-unquote free agency this year in college football. I think it's very clear that the Longhorns and the Aggies are both going in that direction to add to what, there's a core group of guys that each program is going to be determined and hell-bent on keeping. But outside of that, I think that money is going to be spent by both programs more on these pop and wow type portal additions than some of what we've seen in terms of these younger developmental guys. So get ready, Aggies and Longhorns, for two things. You're going to see some players leave because they're going to get told they're making the same as they did this year or less, and they're going to say, man, I can go make more elsewhere. And the coaches are going to say, and they already have to some of them, hey, good luck to you. So get ready for it because both teams, I think, are going big game hunting this year in the portal. Should be really fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think last year the difference was Texas didn't really do a bunch of big swinging in the portal.
Yeah.
Like A&M obviously took some major swings in the portal and it was very successful.
Mm-hmm.
Texas focused more on that inter-program development, but now they're going to do a little more attrition. I will say a couple decisions that Texas is waiting on that would be really awesome if these guys decided to stay. Trevor Gooseby, a lot of Aggie fans learned who that guy was
A year
this
ago.
year.
Really,
I mean, even last year, if you saw when he came in, freshman in that A&M game, he played fantastic. Just stepped in on that O line like nothing changed. Jack Andrews, tight end, and then Hero Canoe. All of those would be great. They're all playing in the bowl game and just making a decision after the fact, and I kind of love that. They want to play in the bowl game. They want to play one more time, even if they decide to leave. There's good feelings with a couple of these. One of them is a pretty much a toss up right now. Don't know either way, so we'll just have to see what happens there.
Man, I will say one of my favorite things I've seen from the A&M side in bowl games in this era of opt-outs, Myles Garrett, who is pertinent because he will take the field Sunday to try to break the all-time NFL single-season sack record. He played in the Texas Bowl, announced he was going pro, and he said, I want to play one more game in maroon and white. And he played in the Texas Bowl against Kansas State. So I do have an appreciation. That's an extreme example, but I do have an appreciation for those guys that do that and play in those bowl games. And thank God we're not seeing opt-outs from significant players in the playoff. That was something everybody was faux panicking about. Thank goodness that hasn't come to fruition. I think kids realize how special and important and impactful that tournament is. So I'm loving that.
What's the point of college football if you don't care about the college football playoffs? I mean, bowl things is one bowl things. Bowl games is one thing. See, I did switch those words up. But the college football playoff, you should care about that one. So opting out of that would be, I don't know, defeat.
On the A&M side, the only guy that fits in that Gooseby, who was the other one you said? Not Canoe.
Gooseby, Andrews, and Canoe.
The only one that kind of fits in is kind of keep an eye if you're an Aggie fan, and Chase Basantis will be a big one because I'm hearing that if he gets like a second round grade, you'll probably see him go. If it's lower than that, I think he could return for he'll be one of your more substantial NIL guys, and he's a he's an all SEC offensive lineman next year for sure. Got some mention this year, even I think on the third team. So, anywho, you're right. That'll be a couple of big decisions in the trenches for both those teams moving forward. We talked about it the other day, and somebody was like clamoring. They were like, I think there's this thing where they think. I really think that damn clip from a couple weeks ago had people going, well, I want to see him press her. And I'm like, we did. We talked about a week ago or like a week prior to that episode. We talked about, I said to you, it got a little, it was fun. It got a little testy where I was like, no, what do you think of this? That people were, a guy got under your skin today by kind of acting like that wasn't a topic that you would be
I wouldn't even say got under my skin. I would just say it's like we've talked about this, and you come with this. Maybe you can say it got under my skin a little bit. It's just like it elicited. Maybe we'll respond to this again if you haven't gotten it through your head quite yet. That nobody is acting like 9-3 was what Texas wanted or what Texas wants to hang their hat on. Nobody is saying that loss to Florida wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying that losing to Georgia by that margin was acceptable by any means. You can kind of wipe the Ohio State game out. Yeah, that would have been a great one to win, but it looked pretty dang competitive outside of Arch's obvious struggles in that game.
Yeah.
But otherwise, nobody's trying to say that it's acceptable to lose to Florida. That is not the standard that Texas has. And yeah, it's disappointing. 9-3 was probably my floor of how this season could end, and it is the floor. And so, I mean, yeah, the comment is, I think I saw this a lot after the Texas A&M game. Well, at least we weren't the preseason number one with all the Heisman favorite to not making the college football playoff. Okay, well, I would like that same energy to be applied to a couple of those other teams that were in the top 5 in the preseason.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure most of us were saying, yeah, you can just kind of shuffle that top 5, put whoever you want at number 1, because there were a lot of unknowns going into this season. I would much rather be Texas than Penn State or Clemson right about now.
Oh, God.
I mean, plenty of people were picking Penn State and Clemson to play in the national championship.
Look, there is a middle ground to being disappointed, to saying this wasn't the standard, this was not what we expected entering the season. I know you and I would go into it, and you thought 10-2 was the floor, not meaning that you could possibly not lose a third game, but you were saying 10-2 is the floor of like expectation and acceptable because you're still getting to the playoff essentially. So there's a middle ground between calling it a disappointment and ending the season with your optimism and program trajectory, let's say, intact.
Like, what do you want them to do? Give up after the Florida game? Say, hang it up. This year's done.
No,
Give it up after the Georgia game? Well, not making the college football playoff.
I would have liked that.
Try.
I would have preferred that.
This isn't the NFL. You don't just tank because you're out of the playoffs. That's not how it works.
No.
Sorry. And that's not how it works. So, you get a positive. You come away with some great wins for the fans and the program. You have the opportunity to have, I think it's the 3rd consecutive 10-win season for the first time since like 2007 or something.
Yeah.
It's been that long. And also, you did get the opportunity to expose some major gaps that were overlooked going into this season that you can address aggressively next year. So you can be disappointed that I will not be happy until we put like 50 up on Florida next year.
Yeah.
I will not be happy until that game we get that one back.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like, what do you want them to do? Stop trying? Also, I think there was a comment in there of just like, all this close road, you scraped by in these bottom feeder SEC teams.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know, is it a good SEC win on the road, or is it just a bad win because it was your arch rival and they beat a bad team? Because that's prime. I'm not talking about you.
Okay, I was about to say this feels like. I was like, this feels like.
I'm not targeting you. You looked a little scared there.
Yeah,
for a second.
I was, because I was like, I know what I said. We don't have to. Yeah. No,
I'm
you're
talking
right.
about this guy of just like, you scraped by against Kentucky and Mississippi State. Do we want to talk about South Carolina then? That one was at home. Do we want to talk about Arkansas only winning by 3 points? Because it's a little bit disingenuous to be making these comments.
Wait, whoa.
And also having super tight SEC games on your schedule. It's either it's a good SEC win because every game in the SEC is a hard game to win, or it's a bad win that you need to address some things.
Let's dissect this a little bit. I'm going to start with one point. I think in your 20,000, no, it wasn't that one. You were cooking me last week going in about the schedule, and you brought up all the red flags of Arkansas, South Carolina. So let's compromise on this one, and let's say this. All SEC wins, I think we both, after 2 years in now, I think we both agree, any SEC road win you take and you don't apologize for because they are difficult. Whether you're Georgia, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Georgia had a barn burner with Kentucky last year.
No question. And Ole Miss thought they were going to the playoffs, and they went and they lost they barely beat, or they lost to Kentucky, but they went and lost to a bad Florida team last year in the Swamp.
I'd rather beat Kentucky than lose to Kentucky. So, there's no apologies for winning that game, even though it was ugly.
So here's the compromise.
You have to look at some things.
Yeah, exactly. And that was your point last week, and I think that's where you compromise that. You go, hey, Texas at that point in the year where they could have gone real easily one way or the other. They were not playing good ball. They barely beat Kentucky, but they won, and it kept their season afloat until they could have gone one way or the other. They could have kept playing that football, and they would have lost multiple games down the stretch, but they didn't keep playing that. But it was important at that time, and that was, I think, what you were saying last week with the South Carolina game, to ask the questions of what's holding them back, and is it fixable, and where could it end up burning you? And in the case of Texas, you were sitting there going, is it the O-line? Is it the the defense? And they rectified it because it's an 8-game conference schedule, not a 2-game conference schedule.
Yeah. And I told you the same thing after the South Carolina game. Like, yeah, you're happy. You don't want to apologize for a win, but if that was Georgia, they would have, I think I used the term, stepped on your throats and not let up. There would have been no chance at coming back in that second half.
Well, you basically said if your offense does this against Texas or in the playoff, you're not going to win, and that's
if the offense does that against Texas away from Kyle Field, you're not going to win that game, and you didn't win that game. So it's just, you can be happy about it, like really cool comeback win,
for sure,
all that, but like you gotta tamper that down a bit and say, okay, what do we really need to learn from this game? Because if you don't learn from that game and you're just excited about Marcel Reed leading the big comeback, then you're shocked when he's throwing 4 interceptions over your next 2 games.
Yeah. Yep. I think
not next 2 games, Texas and
not Samford.
I forgot you played that JV team in the middle there.
Yeah, I saw you sent me numbers today that surprised me a little bit in the last 5, or I don't know if it included LSU or not, but more.
Yeah, it included LSU. It was 'cause the Cam Coleman argument of people trying to get Cam Coleman, and obviously the 2 fan bases are going back and forth on social media about it, and they're like, "Oh, do you want to go to a quarterback who can actually like throw the ball?" And Aggies arguing back at it. I did look at this since the LSU game, so this includes the LSU game. Marcel Reed has outnumbered interceptions to touchdowns. Passing. I didn't look at
he probably had.
We want to compare the passing statistics, and I mean, you can toss the fumbles in there too, but I let that one.
I think. Look, there are 2 900-yard receivers this year in this offense. One was an All-American. Both were from the portal. They both played for Marcel Reed all year.
It's apparent they had to bail him out a couple times.
They made some great catches.
I mean, he threw that hospital ball in Miami that not a hospital ball, dirt ball in Miami, that if it was just a little bit lifted, off to the races. A&M scores a touchdown, probably wins a football game.
Yeah. I think those type guys, Coleman and any other elite receiver in the portal, I think if you're looking at College Station and Austin, you've got to feel pretty good about what you're going to. And I mean, I don't think they sit there and just go Arch Marcel. That's it. Like, I think there's a lot more that goes into it in terms of the style of offense, what the receivers produce. This again, like,
I don't think Cam Coleman's going to Texas, personally. I don't think that's where Texas wants to spend their money, the bulk of their money in the portal, honestly. I think Texas has a running back room that needs to be a higher priority to rebuild. Mm-hmm. You have a bunch of freshmen in that wide receiver room that we have yet to see that could be up and coming. Yeah, go out and grab a transfer. I mean, hopefully you can score on a Matthew Golden type transfer. That would be awesome. A little bit more of an underrated one. But I mean, I think
Craver
the money
would be a good example of that.
The money needs to be prioritized in the offensive line because Arch isn't getting balls off if he's not protected. And so that obviously needs to be a priority. And the running backs, because it's got a new coach, completely new room. Your starters are gone, so you got to figure that one out.
I think for A&M, you're probably looking at a receiver. They really like, you look at what's coming back in Craver, Ashton Bethel Roman, Bussy, and a 5-star that got hurt prior to this year, and another 5-star.
Yeah, you're losing. Honestly, I don't know. You're losing KC.
You're basically trying to replace KC.
But at the same time, you have other really good players that could probably step up into that role with a little bit more development. So is that where you want a major part of your bag to go to in the transfer portal?
Well,
who knows? I don't think either of these teams have money issues.
I was about to say, I think both of them are going to go get about a handful of whether it's Cam Coleman or not. Like, whether it's the O-line version of Cam Coleman, I think both the Aggies and Longhorns are going to be heavily active in the O-line portal. Whether it's for the Aggies, I think they're going to need another probably a D tackle, a DN, a linebacker. You know, like A&M's will be more spread out other than O-line. So if you want to say what's a position, think offensive line if you're a Texas fan wondering what A&M's doing. Outside of that, I think it's just going to be a sprinkling.
Yeah, A&M doesn't want what happened to Texas this year to happen to them in the O-line room.
Well, you talked about it last week.
Not a fun adjustment.
Well, you're talking about it last week where I'm saying, well, Marcel has to – when we had the Arch-Marcel conversation, which I thought was some of your better work, which was, you know, Marcel has to take a jump. We all know that. He did take a jump. He's got to take a second jump, significant. How do you do that with you lose most of your offensive line? Well, you better go attack the portal on the O-line, no matter how much you like your young offensive linemen, because more than anything, experience and having like physically grown men in the trenches in this conference is the only way to win. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that would be my biggest concern as far as Marcel goes. And I feel like a lot of Aggies are expressing some concern about Marcel, and you don't want to just sit here and deny, because I mean,
you need to put out that conversation last week is one that I think Texas fans, Aggie fans, and I think other fans, because it's Arch and because it's Marcel who is in the spotlight a lot of this year.
A&M's next up in that room?
Well, you've got my personal opinion of what I've seen when I go out there and watch. I think probably a Brady Hart, who is a true freshman this year, who actually, speaking of Underwood, got caught up in that whole thing because he was the Michigan commitment, and then they took Underwood, and he was a junior that was going to classify up.
You know what I think A&M needs? I think they need to go to the portal for a quarterback, not a new starter, but they need to go through for a Matthew Caldwell type player. So Texas had an experienced starter behind Arch Manning this year who threw the winning touchdown against Kentucky.
Mississippi State.
Mississippi State, when Arch got pummeled and got the concussion.
The Brandon Walker touchdown.
Yeah, critical play, backup quarterback. So just a player with experience like that you can trust. I mean, should something happen to Marcel, should you see more regression? I don't want to say you're going to see more regression, but just somebody who's seen the field at the college football level, not that expensive. I think A&M would benefit from something like that. And I would like Texas to go to the portal and get something like that again this year as well. I think it was a great move last year, and everybody was very thankful for Matthew Caldwell after that Mississippi State game.
They did it last year in Jacob Zeno, who's actually played in the Big 12 title game for Baylor as a freshman like 7 years ago and started and broke all kinds of records at UAB. But it didn't work out, so he was behind Miles O'Neill. Fortunately for A&M, Marcel did what a lot of people didn't think he would do because he's such a slight of build guy, and that's the one real off-season priority I think should be for him is to gain some weight. But he managed to stay healthy because I do think that what you're talking about, they actually did sign that guy, but he ended up buried on the depth chart. So it could have been problematic had you thrown an inexperienced O'Neill in there. Speaking of Marcel and Arch, and I don't think this bowl game matters, but people asked on Twitter, they were kind of asking of like where both teams were, what the trajectories are. Because, and I thought it was a great question, Amanda, because, again, Texas didn't live up to expectations this year, yet somehow we're looking at them, and I think rightfully so, going, there's a lot to be excited about for particularly next year, but moving forward. And then in the case of A&M, it ended with a thud these last two games. But again, you have to kind of try to look big picture and go, here's this coach that went in the last, he went 8-5, 11-2, and in the playoffs. So a lot to start this out with, a lot to be excited about for both teams. But they're asking, like, who should be more excited about the trajectory? And I think it's pretty fascinating because you don't – one coach is going into what, year 6 or is it 7? It's 6.
7. I think it's 7.
It's 7.
I will say it's going to take me seeing a little bit more of the off-season movement
for sure
on him for me to really evaluate how excited or concerned they should be going into next year, because we talked about this going into the season. This is the year that A&M loses a lot.
They do.
It was last year for Texas and the year before for Texas. Texas graduated a lot of elite guys. So yeah, it would take me a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I think Texas has reason to be optimistic. You're returning Arch Manning. You're returning Jelani McDonald. You're returning Colin Simmons. You're returning some big names on this, like some leadership roles on this team. I think Ryan Wingo has a chance to really break out next year as well.
You'd add Gooseby to that list if he stays.
Huh?
You definitely add Gooseby to that list if he stays.
Oh, yeah, Gooseby as well.
Niblett.
So, Niblett almost left, and I am so glad Sark held on to him because what a player. So, yeah, I think Texas has a lot to be optimistic about right now because they had that season that kind of dunked them on the ass a little bit and told them this isn't acceptable if you want to be competing for a college football playoff every year. And so hopefully the staff learns something from that and addresses what they need to. I think A&M is in the same position Texas was last year, and it's a TBD if they can reload like you would like them to with a much more difficult schedule next year. You're at Alabama, you're at LSU, you're at Mizzou, you're at Oklahoma, and then you close it out with Texas. That's a pretty difficult schedule, and not like Texas's schedule is easy at all either.
No, yeah, and you play Tennessee at home, you play Arizona State at home. It's certainly, it looks infinitely tougher than the last 2 years. I'll say that. I think if you look at A&M's schedule and Texas' schedule, they're both.
Wait, did you just say Arizona State?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you not see that?
That's an off-season game.
Oh, you're talking about just conference.
It's mainly talking about conference, yeah. Because if we want to talk about offense or off-season, I would say Ohio State carries the weight there on that.
No. I'm just saying overall, not like a head-to-head comparison.
Yeah.
That is a brutal schedule for A&M overall. Yeah. And I think
we're also at LSU this year. I forgot that we're at LSU as well.
We play like
our
5 of the same teams. Our schedules are very
comparable this year.
I think 5 of the 12 teams are the same.
Yeah.
And I know.
I mean, swap out Ole Miss for A&M, or not A&M.
Tennessee and Ole
Alabama.
Miss. Tennessee. See, I would say Tennessee and Ole Miss are about similar, and Ohio State,
we have
Alabama.
We have Tennessee on our schedule as well, except we're at Neyland.
Oh, y'all play Tennessee also, so that's 5 and 5. I think that's one of the 5. Yeah, so swap out Ole Miss and I'm trying to think. Would I say Ole Miss and Arizona State?
Ole Miss is a playoff team this year, so
I know, but
Alabama is questionable, I think.
I think Bama, Ohio State, you put in the same boat. I mean,
no, Ohio State is a much higher boat than Bama.
No,
let's be real.
They're both. Look, they're both perennial powers. They're both in the playoffs right now. Still, they're both usually lately.
Oh, Alabama got thumped by Georgia though, which was a team that. Oh,
Georgia's better than Alabama. Does Texas doesn't play Georgia next year though, right?
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. A&M will eventually play.
Give us a year off.
Give us them. I want to play them 1 year. I don't even care about the damn result. Like, give me Georgia at Kyle Field. The people want it. I mean, it's not even.
You say that now. Yeah. You say you want it now, and then at the end of the game, you might.
Then I'm crying about the SEC grind and the gauntlet.
Yeah.
No, but I think the schedules are both really tough. As you're looking at like trajectories, there's the Arch Marcel thing, which we talked about last week in depth, and closing out the season it was Arch flashing that all that living up to that potential that everybody talked about. And you mentioned like he actually beat Reed and Pavia down the stretch, two of the more talked about quarterbacks in the league.
I mean, if you watched him all year, you would have had a somewhat grasp of football knowledge. You would know that maybe all except for 2 games, he had really bad performances. That would be Kentucky and UTEP. Most of the rest of the issues, he had some struggles here and there, but the issues were not all on Arch.
Are we doing the same thing with Marcel?
What do you mean? Do the same thing with Marcel?
The
thing with Marcel is the interceptions.
Yeah.
The interceptions, the dirt balls.
I'm not worried. The dirt balls, it's you're talking about throwing inaccurately. And I think
inaccuracies, general inaccuracies.
I think both guys struggled with that, though, this year, just at different times.
Well, the thing is with Arch, you adjust his completion percentage, and I would love to see how this looks for Marcel as well. It's some paid platform you have to do to get this done, and our guys at On Texas Football paid for it with Arch. An adjusted completion percentage based on balls that should have been caught, but it was on the receiver. And Arch's numbers were up there with the best of them because I don't know if you remember the Georgia game. There were many balls that were just in the hands. Ryan Wingo, DeAndre Moore just slipped through. So, in the interception against Georgia was because of DeAndre Moore. And it was because of a missed personal foul, or not missed personal foul, missed pass interference call. So I would love to see what that looks like for Marcel as well. But my main thing is just the turnover problem. By the way,
why don't you use that little subscription and get that for us?
I don't think I can convince the people On Texas Football to do that. Why don't y'all pay for that subscription?
I think it would add. We pay for other ones, so maybe we have it. We do. Oh, I just got told we do. So pull that up and slide it to me, Zane.
I don't remember what Arch is.
I reserve the right to either read it on air or not. No, but
I'm intrigued to see what Marcel's is as well. Because Marcel did have the benefit of more experienced receivers than Texas did.
Moore and Wingo.
Wingo is second year. Livingston, Moore was
Craver second year. Bussy second year, moved from corner. Ashton Bethel-Roman basically redshirted last. I think your better argument is the thing you used last week, which was the offensive line.
Yeah,
that would be a better. If you're trying to say like what was more affected.
Yeah, well,
I think it was the O-line.
Not even older players. Just better receivers.
Yeah.
A&M have better receivers overall that they benefited from.
That's nice to say because it's been a minute, And I think, again, when you talk about like a Cam Coleman, and by the way, to Aggie fans, I did the eyeballs today, and everybody thought that was me saying they're getting him. Even if A&M felt like they were going to get a Cam Coleman, when a player of that caliber goes it says he's going in the portal and it officially becomes
everybody's throwing up their
season.
Eyeballs.
If you think you've got anybody at right now today, you're pretty naive. And some of those things you think they're done until they're not. And I don't even think A&M is sitting there thinking that Cam Coleman is a done deal to come to. That was not at all what I meant. I saw some Aggies taking a bit of a victory lap because that's where Auburn people think he's coming. I'm just going to caution you,
you never know.
Those guys are hard to close. They are very difficult to close. Do I think A&M won't get him or can't get him? No. But it is far, far, far from something that you can chalk up as happening. So just word of caution.
Especially day of.
Yeah. And I think
let's hold our horses here.
Another thing, Amanda, that factors into quarterback-wise, I think, both teams have someone to be excited about. We know who you're taking.
I think you need to tell that a little louder to your fan base right now because not many of them are excited. Are you not reading these comments?
I am, but I don't put.
There are not many people excited in the fan base right now based on the end of the season, and I can't blame them. Just look at the stats. You tell me if that was Arch Manning and those were his statistics, you would not let me hear the end of it about it.
That's fair. Now,
put another uniform on him and tell me your thoughts. I know you think he's a great kid. The fact that the fact that he had a rough end of the season doesn't take anything away from him as a person.
For
Things
sure.
so high of him. Great kid. Deserves to have success. But like you can't overlook that stuff. And
so nothing you just said is wrong. I'm not overlooking it. My point is I don't think that you throw away a season was just played that included 13 games. And I know, to me, and we had this debate a couple weeks ago too, and your point was, who have they played better than Texas? And I said Notre Dame, and then, it went downhill from there. But Notre Dame, Texas, Miami, probably the three best defenses they played, maybe Auburn in there. And if you count Auburn, 3 of those 4 games, he struggled. They scored 16, they scored 17, and they scored 3.
So how does that make you – how are you supposed to be optimistic about that as a fan going into a season next year with harder games on your schedule?
Because I would look at that quarterback, and I would look at where he was a year ago in his first year as a starter, and I would look at where he was this year. Not today, not after his most recent game, which was –
I thought the entire season mattered.
It does, but that's what I'm saying, the entire season, not just 2 games. He had some,
I'm not looking at the entire season. I'm looking at his total interception rating, and it's one of the highest in college football.
Okay, you're right, and that is something that he certainly, if you're saying what areas does he need to improve on, that is one of them. I mean, it's probably the biggest one, right? And that ties also into inaccuracy a lot of times because just look at that Miami game. Both interceptions were when he threw it behind the receiver. One way behind, the other one in the end zone. So, yes, that is probably, to me, the biggest area he's got to improve and correct. I think teams, particularly the last couple teams, the way they fully committed to playing zone defense against him tells you that they're not sure how they think there's a big drop-off when he's thrown against zone versus man. That's something that's, I think, a red flag for them to look at as well. But I think if you're like taking in the whole season, the guy 11 games in was squarely in the Heisman discussion. And he was squarely
is a stretch. You launched a Heisman campaign and the next week it was over.
It's fine. That they should have launched it sooner then. It would have lasted more weeks, I guess. Actually, to me, maybe not launch it at all and let him, finish the race. And then but that's common in college football. I think most people did that this year, if you look around. But to me, he was squarely in the race until he went to Austin. He had a real shot. So Austin happened, playoff happened. Those are 2 of the 13 games. The dude had some terrific games as a passer, as a runner, as a winner, and some terrific moments. Is that good enough moving forward with what you mentioned last week, a rebuilt O-line and all? No. And so those turnovers going into next year, you probably won't even get back to where you were if Marcel doesn't make a big jump because the supporting cast, a.k.a. the O-line, a.k.a. a lot of veterans on defense, like he's going to have to engineer a really, really good offense next year. Particularly,
he has virtually the same QBR and same completion percentage that he did last season.
Did he? Well, you watched the games, right? You did.
Last season?
This year. He was a much better quarterback this year. I think anyone...
He had better tools. He doubled his interception count this year.
Yeah, well, but timeout. He started half the games.
Yeah, I know. He played less games.
Yeah. So, listen, I'm not going to debate with you something I agree with, right? Like your interception, your turnover point, and that number since the LSU game, it's absolutely an eye-opener.
I mean, we can look at turnovers in Power 4 games that he played the full game, and it'd probably be because I mean, he didn't turn the ball over against UTSA. He didn't turn the ball over against Utah State.
No.
Against State.
Maybe
did he even play all of Sanford?
No, 1 quarter, no turnovers.
Yeah. So, I mean, those you can kind of toss out. So it's a little more directly comparable, sans a handful of games.
Yeah, ball security is a big difference.
Just sunshine pumping about his growth. I would have wanted to see more growth this season if I'm an Aggie fan.
Yeah,
I would have wanted to see if you can lose those last two games and be confident about Marcel, but it can't be because Marcel threw two interceptions at the end of the Texas game to ruin their chances of staging a comeback and threw an interception in the end zone at the end of the Miami game. Yeah. That's not going to put a good taste in your mouth going into the offseason. You can lose those games and still have a good taste in your mouth about the quarterback that you have at the helm, because it could have not been his fault. But not that it was all his fault, because you have to have an entire team to win a football game. But, when Texas was losing earlier this year, guess whose fault it was, according to all of college football?
It was Arch.
It was Arch. Yeah. Overrated.
No, I think you bring up some great points, but I guess where I'm coming from is not to sunshine pump and say
he's just trying to defend him when he says he's super excited about Marcel and more excited than he would be if it was Arch Manning.
That's not what I'm doing. You are so like. I hope you get. You know what? I hope you get to use this on TikTok. I hope it pops off. I hope you get 30,000 things. But here's the deal. What I'm saying is, I think people, aka you pointed out, where a lot of the A&M fans are.
Not that A&M fans are the most reasonable fans on the planet. Got to point that one out.
And I think
neither are Texas fans.
This is where I'm not cool with it. Is you don't go from chance and that movement to our quarterback's not any good based on that, when there's a reason you went so far in on it. I think a lot of things got exposed in these last 3 Power 5 games, particularly like you've pointed out. I would love to win an argument with you. I really would, but I'm sorry.
I'm not sold on him right now. I'm not sold on him going into next season yet. And I would love for him to prove me wrong. But based on the last couple games this year, maybe he'll have a lot of growth in the offseason, and Elko can build some players around him to support him more so. But based on he did have a great beginning of the season, but based on the trajectory, I'm just not sold on him being exponentially more successful next year and remounting a Heisman campaign.
It is a legitimate statement you just made. I think it's a legitimate concern. And I think Marcel should take that as a legitimate, he needs to look at it himself and say, dude, this is not going to get it done. And rather than play and I don't think he's doing this like what people think, there's an agent game involved, but people get a mythical number thrown out that is it's higher than the reality, first of all. But agents they try to leverage it. And there does come a point in time, Amanda, where that number supersedes reality, where you go, no, this is the number.
Wait, you think he could enter the transfer portal?
No, I don't. Okay. Anybody could. I don't think that he will, but I do think people are floating a number that they say is being demanded, and it's souring some A&M fans, and I think that's the wrong thing, because I think you have to understand that a lot of times agents versus player and family are different. The agent's trying to do a job. They tip some of them do it in a completely unreasonable and unrealistic fashion, and then there's a middle ground that people meet in, and I think that's absolutely where Marcel's going to land.
Or you just have a quarterback that gives up his money for other players.
Yeah, but that's easy to do when you're making as much.
When you got a glasses sponsorship. I'm wearing my Arch Manning Vuori pants right now. If you haven't had Vuori, they're tried Vuori activewear. Highly recommend.
Oh, I love those. Vuori and Aloe are mine.
If you like soft clothing that you can just sink into, Vuori. It's one of Arch's partnerships.
I might, you know what? I'm going to be in Dallas this week for that Cotton Bowl. I might go stop by Vuori. There's one in North Park Mall. Park. Go hit that. Go hit Aloe. See what's up. But yeah, to wrap that up, I think you're spot on in that there's a lot of area he needs to improve. I'm not completely sold on Arch being achieving what everybody but I do see ball security, and I see a steady ascent as the season wound down.
Well, I don't think you see, and I don't think you're going to see the same hype train you saw last year of preseason Heisman favorites.
I do. Maybe not by you
Send
and
me an
y'all.
article. I haven't seen I've seen,
I'm just
in
predicting
consideration.
I'm predicting it. Like, mark my words.
I think we'll see more of the players that were actually in the at the Heisman this year that are
Who's back?
Sayin.
That's it, right?
Julian Sayin.
Pavia, Mendoza,
Pavia's gone.
Love, they're all gone. So, but I mean, I won't have near the problem with Arch being in that conversation next year, actually, because he beat number 3 A&M. He won the Red River. He rebounded from a port. Like, I would not sit there and have any sort of outward issue with it like I did the previous year, because if you're just taking the quarterbacks,
makes more sense.
Gunnar Stockton needs to be in that conversation.
Yeah.
Trinidad Chambliss, wherever he's playing. Like I said, it at least it was earned on the football field this year to a degree that I don't see a problem. If you're going to list 10 guys, I would expect him to be in that. I would.
And I think you can rest assured Texas will not be preseason number 1 next year. So
no, I would have expected.
Don't want to hear about the hype train.
And in closing on this, I would have expected Marcel to be in that as well, had he led A&M past Miami 31-27.
It's hard to overlook 3 points.
It is.
When you have a quarterback with those wide receivers at his expense.
Now, both teams, we're talking trajectories here. I think we both agree they're both on a nice one. But both are replacing coordinators. A&M, both of them. Defense gets a little asterisk because it's Elko's defense, much like it's Sark's offense. Do you think both of these head coaches have some philosophical wrestling matches to have in their own head this year, in terms of there were moments where this A&M defense was spectacular, and there were moments where they just couldn't stop the damn run? And you look at Miami and you look at Texas, and there went your season. And if you're Sark, there were moments when this offense in the last couple of years has been unstoppable. And then there are times when you're going.
Well, I mean, Sark does play calling for the offense. So
do you think each of these guys, Amanda, this offseason have to look just at themselves and say, okay, I got to tinker with something with what I'm doing with my side of the ball to eliminate, in A&M's case, this run defense weakness, in Sark in the Longhorns' case, this kind of inconsistency when it comes to scoring points, frankly?
I mean, I don't necessarily agree with the inconsistency as far as scoring points go, because Texas did not have that issue in the latter half of the season. I think that was the issue. There was more of,
how many games did Texas score one offensive touchdown or less this season?
I'm not
4.
sure. I think
the answer is 4.
The offensive issues were towards the beginning of the season, primarily because they couldn't figure out the offensive line situation.
Well, A&M scored 3 against Miami, which was bad, admittedly terrible. And Texas scored 10 against Georgia, which is later in the year, and it was not good. So I think
scored 10 what?
Points. 1 touchdown.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. I thought you were talking about touchdowns. I was like, we had scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you wish. I wish we scored 2.
Well, I also think Georgia on the road is a little bit different of a conversation than Miami at home.
I'll give you the home road. I think those defenses are very comparable. Very comparable. I think we're going to.
I mean, I guess we might find out, but yeah. I don't think they're much. I think Georgia's a bit. If we love to talk SEC supremacy all the time, then
I watched a lot. I think that Miami defense is
Georgia
filthy.
beat the ever-loving hell out of Texas, and Texas beat A&M defiantly. So
I get that, but you're going transitive here. I'm just telling you, Miami's defense is legit nasty. And my point of saying all this was, A&M's got issues with the head coach and the defensive side of the ball, has to shore up this run defense because the status quo won't get it done in the big games and the big moments. We saw that in the last 2 games. And we saw it even like you mentioned early in the season where it's kind of like, hey, there's a weakness there. And I think on the Texas side, I think a lot of your fans would agree with me on this one where if they don't go and if he doesn't like be real introspective and say, what do I need to do better to keep from this week, against A&M, their offense looked really good in the second half. Against Mississippi State, they found their rhythm, lit it up. But there was
Vanderbilt.
There was
Against
Vandy,
Arkansas.
they looked great. Arkansas, but then there was OU, there was Kentucky, there was Ohio State, and there was Georgia.
Okay, so at the end of the day, came into this season saying that Texas wasn't going to win games by scoring 30-plus points. Mm-hmm. Texas was going to win games by holding opponents to sub 20 points, which is basically what they did most of last season. Whether it was 20 points or what, I don't know. They held, I might have to delete this too. Okay, last season, they held, with the exception of Vanderbilt, and obviously the game they lost to Georgia, they held every single opponent to under 20 points last year. So that is how I think Texas anticipated winning games this year. And so when that was obviously not the case, approach. You have the secondary giving up points that were not given up last year. I think that's where I'm the PK decision doesn't make much sense, but focusing on figuring out that secondary again, honing back in on that with Muschamp, hopefully.
Yeah.
That's where I'm glad that Sark has kind of made the decision to flip there. I'm less concerned about the offense going into next year. At the beginning of the season, I had a lot of question marks about why Sark is insisting on calling this offense. But at the end of the day, last season, if we were putting up 20, it was enough to win the game.
True.
So it was just a mindset thing.
All right. We talked a lot about Georgia there. Let's wrap this up. And real quickly, we got 4 playoff games this weekend. Let's make our picks and quick thoughts on it. And then we'll predict the bowl game as well and close it out. So let's start with, Ole Miss at your Georgia Bulldogs. And I feel like we might agree on this one. That's going Georgia down in the Sugar Bowl. I agree with you. I think Georgia – I think they're both of our picks to win it, were they not? On one of your two?
Indiana. I did 2. My one chart that's doing good so far, I have Indiana winning it all. My other one, it's done because I picked A&M and OU, so thanks, guys.
Sorry about it. I wish we could have helped. I am going to go with Georgia, too. I think they just playing – the end of the year playing great football. I don't think weeks off affect Kirby Smart. I think people can point to last year. That was because your Horns hurt Carson Beck, and there was a guy named Gunnar Stockton making his first career start against Notre Dame. I think they avenge that, and they don't let Ole Miss avenge. So
agree.
Moving forward, Texas Tech and Oregon in Miami. This one –
you go first on this one. I'm conflicted.
I've been going back and forth so much, and here's my deal. I'm going to do what I don't want to do.
You're going to pick the Red Raiders.
I'm going to pick the Red Raiders, and here's why. I just think that Oregon, what I've seen from them, I just don't try. I think when Tech gets beat, it's going to be because a team's defensive front seven just physically whips them. And it negates that Tech offense, and it forces a low-scoring game that the other team wins, whether it's 17-13, 20-16, or something like that. And I think, but it's going to take more up front than what Oregon's going to bring to the table. I just haven't, and their defense has, quite frankly, concerned me in a couple of these games. Even James Madison when they rolled. And I don't love Dante Moore yet either. I'm going Tech.
I'll just be different. I'll go Oregon. I don't feel great about it, but
we are tied in the pick, so we may as well have
if Oregon wins, I'm 3 for 3 on hate watches in the college football playoffs, and that's not too bad.
I hope you keep that streak going, and I
think this is probably your first hate watch in the college football playoffs.
It is. Moving forward, speaking of hate watches, I don't because of how poorly A&M played, it was such a. I don't hate watch Miami. I'm going to that stadium to watch.
Miami's not a rival.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to that stadium to watch a really good football game. I might actually even root for Miami over Ohio State, but I think I'm going to pick the Buckeyes in that one. I think that Miami defense shows up again, but I just can't see Carson Beck. I think Matt Patricia shuts down that Miami running game in a way that A&M couldn't. And had A&M shut that down, I don't even know when Miami scores without it.
Yeah, I'm going Ohio State too.
Same, and then finally, the last one, I think maybe the more interesting one of the week to me. I like Oregon and Tech and Indiana, Alabama at the Rose Bowl. Bama is a weird team to me, Amanda, because they got playmakers. But Indiana was on a roll the last time we saw them. They beat Ohio State. So I don't know. What's your pick on that one? I'm going
Indiana.
I know you love Mendoza and Signetti. I might pick upset here. I might be feeling a little SEC Kool-Aid.
SEC bias.
I think Indiana it's upset alert. I think a low-scoring game, which both teams I think would be comfortable in. I think I'm going SEC bias and going Indiana. Go. And then finally, I mean, you're flipping a coin here, right, with Michigan, Texas, because it's so with opt-outs and all that.
I'll pick Texas. I think Texas has a better team, but obviously I think it's a lot of unknowns with all the opt-outs, so can't get overly confident with that. And I mean, Michigan probably feels like they have some sense of pride that they need to be playing for.
We have picked two games differently already, so sometimes I would pick differently just because we're going into this last stretch tied. I'm going to go with Texas too because you've got a head.
It looks better for you if we win.
I'm way past that. Like, did we not just do this?
Had to throw that out there.
I'm gonna go Texas in this one. I just don't think Michigan beats them without. Who's their coach? Biff Poe guy. I'm gonna go
Biff.
I'm gonna go Sark over Biff.
I wouldn't be proud to.
Even though Sark kind of has Biff's haircut from Back to the Future.
Oh, that's funny.
He kind of does, but I'm gonna go Sark, and I'll go Sark and Arch in this one over Biff and Underwood. And hopefully, it's not Underwood's last game in the maize and blue. I'd like to see Whittingham. By the way, great hire for them. It's funny.
Oh, yeah. It's fail up there. That was prime example. That's probably one of the best hires of the season.
As we go on with coaching hires, let's all remember this, right? Nobody when Tom Herman got fired, nobody the next day in Longhorn land was going, let's hire Steve Sarkisian. When Penn State went through this whole roller coaster of miss, and they land on Matt Campbell, which I think is terrific for them. And when Michigan goes through whatever the hell they just went through, and they land, on a Hall of Fame coach. Sometimes it's not just and by the way, Bama went and got DeBoer, and I know he's in the playoffs, but ask their fan base how much they're in love with him, and that was the prize. You just don't know, and a lot of times, like if you're just patient with it, it can work out. So I think. Look at Tom Herman, look at Jimbo. Neither one of those worked out. They were exciting hires for both programs. So I think Michigan and Penn State both kind of fell into it. And Amanda, if you look around at the SEC hires compared to some of the Big Ten hires, I do think the Big Ten came out better. You got a lot more experienced, winning culture type coaches that have kind of matriculated into that conference, where here in the SEC, you see a lot of these coaches now getting hired on the upswing where they're stepping up in class, like Herman, like Sumlin, like Napier. A lot of these guys just didn't work out. So just something to file away as we move forward.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Well, go work on your voice and get some sleep. You got your gym. What do you got, gym in the morning?
Yeah, unfortunately.
The hardest working woman.
Voice recovers.
Hardest working woman in show business. I'm Billy Liucci.
I'm Amanda Atwell.
And we're moving goalposts.